Now once we understand what is sampling, we need to know what are the different types of sampling. There are two types of sampling: probability sampling, non-probability sampling, and mixed method or multi-stage sampling. Now you all are aware about the term probability. Do you remember when we were young, we used to play with the coin, right? We used to toss the coin and we used to predict what will come, head or tail, right? So since there are only two sides for the coin, the probability was 50-50%. So that is the meaning of the term probability. So probability sampling depends upon the probability of each individual to get selected in that particular sample. So when we are following the probability principles, we are going for probability sampling, and when we are not following the probability principles, we are going for non-probability sampling. And the third thing is where we have the combination of both the types, that is probability sampling as well as non-probability sampling. So we go for probability sampling. Equal chance for each one to get selected in the sample. There are different types. One is simple random sampling, systematic random sampling, stratified random sampling, proportionate sampling, area or cluster sampling. Now when we talk about non-probability sampling, all do not have equal chance to get selected in the sample. So accidental or incidental sampling is one type, purposive or judgmental sampling is another type, quota is third type of non-probability sampling, sequential is fourth type, and snowball is the fifth type of non-probability sampling. Now when do we go for probability sampling? Because although we are saying that probability sampling is good or it is the best, we have to know that when to follow which type of sampling. So when population is finite, that means you really know the total number in the population, then you can go for probability sampling. Then listing of all the units in the population. If you have the list of all the units in the population, then you can go for probability sampling. For example, if I want to study the teachers, right, then it is very difficult for me to get the list of all the teachers if I am concerned with the state of Maharashtra. So what I have to do? I have to find out some source from which I can do the sampling. So if I go for the schools, then schools can be the finite sample because there are list of schools published by the board, SSC board, CBSE board, they publish their list of schools. So if I have to follow the probability sampling, then I should have the list of schools. Then only I can follow it. Possibility of selection of units at random. If I have that list, then I can follow it. Each unit will have the equal chance of getting selected in the sample. Then estimation of chance of selection, like as I have given you example of coin, 50-50% are the chances, that is the estimation. So accordingly, if 100 units are there, then 100 is the chance for each one to get selected in the sample. Estimation of error can be done. Now when we talk about simple random sampling, we use lottery method or cheats. We can make the cheats. Or there are some random number tables which are available, or through computer also you can generate the random numbers. So since you have the list and you have those random numbers, you can generate that random numbers, and from that list you can take out those people or those units as your sample. What are the limitations? It is time consuming. If your population is large, then it becomes difficult. Then impractical and deviant, because if you have the 1 lakh people, list of 1 lakh people, and if you want to select the 1000, then it becomes very tedious. It is very expensive. So we have to have the another type of sampling, which is called as systematic random. It is little bit modification of random. So the basic principle of randomization is maintained, but still there is some system is followed, and therefore it is called as systematic random. So what is done here? We have the total number and we divide it by required number to get the size. For example, if I have 100 schools, okay, and I have decided that I will select 10 schools. Okay, so total number is 100 and I require 10 schools. So 100 divided by 10, it comes out to be 10. So what I do here, from first 10, I have the list with me because it is random. I have to have the list. Without that, I cannot do. So what I do, at the beginning, I follow the principle of randomization. Means what? From 1 to 10 numbers, I pick up any number randomly. Suppose it comes out to be 7. So the 7th unit in that list becomes my sample. And after that, I follow the interval of 10. So then 7, 17, 27, 37, like that I will find out those numbers and accordingly those schools will get selected in my sample. So it is random plus some system is followed and therefore it is called as systematic random sampling. So what are the limitations? It is again time consuming, difficult if high variance in population. Variance stands for variation. You must have heard about these two words, homogeneous and heterogeneous. Homogeneous denotes that the population or the members of the population, they are almost similar in all the characteristics. And heterogeneous connotes that there is lot of variation, lot of variety in the population. So when it becomes the limitation for systematic random, if your population has lot of variation. So even if you are following something systematic, after that the initial unit which you have selected in your sample and the later on unit you will be selecting in your sample may be having some variation. So in that case, you may not be able to generalize from the findings which are based on this sample. So that becomes the limitation. And sometimes the cost of data collection may be high because you may be getting the samples which are very far out. So it will be difficult for the researcher to deal with all these samples. So sometimes that may be. Again, it is not always, it is sometimes. Okay. Then we go for stratified random sampling. Now we always talk about the strata of the society. There are different strata of the society or there are different layers in the society. Means what? Basically, if we talk about human beings, then it is male and female. So basically, when we talk about the strata, we are talking about the groups which are there in the society. So it may be based on the gender, that is male or female, or when we are talking about society, it is socio-economic status, which is also important thing because on the basis of socio-economic status, many things are determined by for the individual, and therefore this understanding the strata and including all these strata in our sample is very important, and therefore we go for still more accuracy when we are following stratified random sampling. So what we do in stratified random sampling? First we have the formation of strata. So we form the strata. For example, if we are talking about the students, then we may talk about male and female students. Or if we are talking about socio-economic strata, then we may have low socio-economic, medium and high socio-economic strata. Variance among stratum, not within stratum. So in different strata there will be variation, but within that strata there will not be any variation, because if I am talking about the people from low to SES, then all of them will belong to low SES. But there will be a definitely difference between low SES and high SES individuals. Random subgroups or correlated categories. We can select from this strata the different samples randomly. What are the limitations of this? These are based on the strata and we may not be knowing the units in that. When we talk about the strata, sometimes what happens, some strata may be having B. It may not be the equal distribution in the strata. There may be some strata which has the higher representation and some strata may be having lower representation. And therefore, when we go for generalization, it may be little difficult for us. Therefore, then we go for still more precision. We go for proportionate to population sampling. Now, in earlier stratified random sampling, what we have taken? We have just taken the strata irrespective of the size of the population. Now, we are going one step further. We are considering the strata. At the same time, we are considering the size of the population when we are selecting the sample. For example, if I am talking about the students who are studying in undergraduate courses, there are science students, art students and commerce students. So these are the strata. Now, if I take into consideration the enrollment of the students in each of these faculty, and according to that enrollment, if I am following or if I am selecting the sample which will be in proportion to the total number of students who are enrolled in that particular faculty, then I am following proportionate to population sampling. So what is done? Simple random in strata, proportionate to the population as I have explained to you. But again it has some limitations, time consuming and expensive. Needs estimate of exact population to decide, because if I have to accurately know how much should be taken in my sample, that I should know the total population accurately.